Rest of
What
it.
kind of team's gonna kick us out?
I don't know.
I'm like a solid 155. A muscle.
How are you 155? You're taller than me.
It's because he doesn't eat.
Anorexia.
All right. All right.
Topic
So,
3.
you guys all good to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to start it?
Hey, we've been waiting.
It's already recording.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, watch your language. There's children watching.
All right. Welcome everybody to Full Circle. This is to be the first episode. Today we're going to be talking about video game addiction. We have our special guest off camera, Malachi. You may be able to hear him. Those are, of course, his wonderful parents, cooing at him from afar.
Yeah.
So my name's Chris. Just to introduce everybody real quick, and then we'll get into everybody's background. We have Juanita sitting to my left, Phil, who is just sitting next to her, who's picking up the small one. And then on the end there, in the red sweater, that would be Liz. And then we'll have everybody talk real quick, just a little bit of background about who you are, what you've done education-wise and stuff of that nature, and like what you're currently doing. So to start off, again, my name's Chris. I recently finished my master's with Adler University, degrees in couples and family therapy, and I also have a bachelor's in psychology, and currently working to become a full-time therapist. Juanita?
I'm Juanita. I am a certified nursing assistant at a rehabilitation center. I'm actually in the process of finishing my bachelor's in healthcare administration, which focuses on running a department or facility in the healthcare field, plus dealing with the insurance claims in the department.
I am Philip. P as in pterodactyl.
What the hell are you?
I have a bachelor's in science, biology, and I am a cosmetic chemist by trade. I have, say, like 8 years in cosmetic chemistry. Make the world beautiful, one day at a time. Very relevant.
My name is Liz. I graduated from the Adler School of Professional Psychology before it was renamed to Adler University. In clinical mental health counseling. I currently work in a non-for-profit with adults with developmental disabilities. For undergrad, I went to Benedictine, got my major in clinical psychology and a minor in biology.
Awesome.
Oh, and Malachi.
Oh yeah, Malachi, what do you do?
What do you do?
Malachi is a PhD candidate in neuroscience and molecular biology. He's our technical expert on the talk today.
Yes.
And he also set up all the recording and everything. He's handling our lighting and editing. So if there are any issues, take it up with him. I'm sure the complaint department will be overflowing with things for him to read. Okay, so like I said, today's episode we're going to talk about video game addiction, or more so something that's not really recognized in the mental health field. But to kind of nail down what gaming addiction is, I have a broad definition of what it sort of refers to, but basically it's an excessive time playing games, particularly video games. The gaming addict displays a pattern of behavioral addiction similar to gambling addiction, whereby he or she ignores social, relational, and occupational responsibilities and becomes preoccupied with the game. In general, gaming addiction has a greater connection to video games than to board games, card games, or sports. So just to start us off, what do you guys think about that? Does that sound like a real thing?
I don't know.
You weren't the one All right, well,
Okay, so
Jesus.
in more of a broad is it addicting?
Video games, can they be addicting?
Yes.
Anything can be addicting if you like it enough.
Well, there you go. That's our episode for
That's the
today,
whole
folks.
episode. Just turn it off. There you go.
What's your experience with video gaming?
what's my experience?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've played video games since I was a young child.
How young?
I don't know, probably watched for many years.
Dating yourself right now, so.
We'll go back to Atari, probably.
No way.
I played Atari, but not when it came out, obviously, because I wasn't born yet.
What?
When did Atari come out? The original? It's 86, isn't it?
What was your first experience with a video game? What was the
80.
first time you picked up the controller? What year?
I told you. Oh, what year? That's not what you asked.
What year
asked
did you pick up the
What's your,
controller?
yeah.
Let's say probably 6.
When you're 6 years old, you picked up the
Probably.
controller.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Probably, because Tim's like, what, 10 years older than you?
Yeah.
So he's probably 10 playing games.
Yeah.
I'd have to say roughly 5, 6 years old is when I first picked up the controller. Either of you care to comment?
Games were not allowed in my household, so I had to buy my first video gaming system. It was a PS1, Grand Theft Auto.
Woo, you started on the
Really?
hard
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
Really hard.
That's like-
No,
it's like starting on
was
heroin.
not very good at it. I was in high school when I bought it. Yeah.
So you went out and just hardcore bought a whole console and video game, just dove right in.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was doing.
Rob a bank after that? Dangerous
And here we
behavior.
are today.
Yeah.
Dangerous
Well,
behavior.
for me, I didn't really video game. My sister and my brother video gamed. All my friends video gamed. I just kind of went with them just to hang out. But we had like every PlayStation. We had PlayStation, we had Xbox in our house, we had Sega, we had the Wii, stuff
Yeah.
like. We had every gaming system because our neighborhood, we had all these guys. They would come to our house and all they do would just game with my sister, and then that's how I ended up getting in it. But I don't game at all anymore.
You don't own a console or anything or play?
Yeah, I have a Wii, I have a Sega at home, I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation 3,
So
whatever.
if I check your phone right now, there's no games on there? There's no apps, nothing?
I don't know.
Blame me.
Actually,
What do you mean you
can
don't know?
check my
I don't
phone.
know.
I don't have any.
I don't need to check your phones.
I used to have Candy Crush. I used to have Plants vs.
I
Zombies.
There you
actually-
go.
I had like
had a when I switched.
I had, like,
phones,
the
kinda
Mario
downloaded
app
it
for a
'cause
while.
Addicted.
I was addicted to Candy Crush.
I was like, yeah. And that's actually one of the
Well,
things.
shit, I mean, we're barely
Yeah.
getting into this and we're already
Admitting-
picking up on key points that we were
I
aiming to talk
know.
about later.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
wow, that's
Well, definitely.
coming up real quick.
Yeah, because I got a few statistics on that Candy Crush and stuff like that
Yeah.
that we were gonna touch base on.
I actually was
Candy.
addicted to that when I was at Adler in my internship. Like I would play in my downtime like all the time, and I refused to buy anything, so I'm cheap. But I would sit there and we would like move the dates before and like up in date. Like we would move the dates on our phones so that we could get free lives. And then like
Oh, yeah.
we messed
Yeah.
up my friend's iPhone to the point where she had to go in and have it reset. And they're like, "Why is this 2020?"
Oh, God.
And she-
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are resetting it that much.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, that was something that we were going to talk about was video gaming versus like the internet gaming disorders and the apps and stuff like that. And one of them was like The Sims, Candy Crush, FIFA, Call of
Addicted to
Duty,
The Sims?
and just how many and just the amount of times that
Escaping reality into
Yeah, it
a
just-
fantasy world that they find more socially acceptable.
Such a boring fantasy world.
Just
Yeah.
because you
Real
don't like
life.
that game. It's like,
It's not a bad
what's
game.
the
it's just-
vampire game that you're a vampire, a warlord?
What?
Rain?
Well, Witcher 3?
There you
Witcher
go. It's
3.
the same
He's not a
genre.
vampire.
He's not a
He was.
vampire.
You
He
got-
kills vampires.
You got bit by a vampire.
Well,
No,
yeah.
that was a werewolf? I
Or
don't
you're
know.
thinking Skyrim. I
Either
was
one,
a
those
werewolf.
are the
I
same
wasn't
Yeah,
a
genre.
Skyrim, they're not the same thing.
They're completely different.
I
Skyrim,
meant same genre.
in Skyrim, you can get bitten by a vampire or scratched or whatever, and then you turn into a vampire later on. And then you can also become a werewolf in that, but not both at the same time.
Yeah,
you have to
that
cure
was-
yourself of one or the other first. And then in your Witcher, you're already like basically like this superhuman that's been splicing together different cells to make yourself like a hunter to basically combat these creatures such as werewolves and vampires. Ah.
Do you understand the difference now?
No.
I have no
Just
idea.
educated
You're
you.
welcome.
So,
Thanks.
well,
Now you're no longer ignorant. You're welcome.
one of the articles that I found was the relationship between game genres and internet gaming disorder, and this is one of the most relevant. This is from 2016, and it talks about just the amount of time a person spends on a game. So of Call of Duty, which I assume both of you guys play,
Yes.
I mean, you're looking at 6+ hours
A day?
a week.
That's it?
That's it, according to this study that I got.
I could cram way
Um,
much more in there.
Yeah, but then you look at Candy Crush
It's like today.
or The Sims, you're looking
Yeah,
at,
6 hours a day.
yeah, but you're looking at like 3 to 4 hours for somebody playing Candy Crush
That's a lot of
which
Candy
is-
Crush, though.
Like a day?
in a week.
Oh, in a week?
In a week. These are based on a week.
Well, if you could imagine, I mean, say you have Candy Crush on your phone and say you're at a desk job and you just need to type something up, or even a cashier, you just have your phone just sitting at the desk there. With Candy Crush, you just have to swipe basically, right? To
Yeah.
function the game. I mean, you could easily do that for your whole shift if you're a cashier or a bagger or any
Yeah,
other
It's a lot
position.
harder to do that because you have customers and it's more in the open. More like jobs where you can hide it a little
See,
bit better.
Yeah.
Well, you get a
and that's-
cubicle or whatever.
Yeah,
See,
like
I
a
used to work
cube
in a
or-
cubicle.
Yeah.
And I
like-
did business consulting for 2 years, and that was my go-to, was Candy Crush, Plants vs. Zombies. I did like Mario Kart, like on the app and stuff. And that's what I did, because I had my own cubicle. So I would just play all day.
You were playing video
I was
games
playing
all
video
day?
games while I was talking to sales reps.
Good,
was
good
doing
thing
it.
you use that fake Juanita name so that people know not. You're costing yourself job prospects going for.
What else? Did
But
you,
there's plenty of ways to cram more time into the days for playing video games. But does that sound like
You just
an
don't
awful
sleep.
lot of time just playing 6 hours like throughout the whole week?
I don't know, because what was it before Daniel had a wife, fiance? He was playing equal amount of video games to working. Like, he was putting in 40 hours on a game.
Oh, yeah.
a day? A week?
A week, and then he was working 40 hours. Like, I
See-
don't know how he was.
How much is enough?
Are you playing right
yeah,
now,
I-
Chris?
That's what I thought. I was like, dang.
We are diagnosing you
I was
with
like-
video game
I was like-
addiction.
I like, are we having an intervention?
No. I was just making a point of how easy it is to kind of
This is
pull that off.
It's like,
Or
oh my
not,
God.
because we all caught you in like a second.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I could still do it and still talk.
You know, and then, but how much video gaming is enough? When do you tell your child or yourself when to stop?
When it starts
know?
negatively impacting your life.
That's actually something that's already in here for like the
I know.
internet gaming disorder.
He has
Yeah.
an honorary degree, Chris.
Honorary masters in
There you go.
psychology.
Still,
DSM-5, memorized.
You know,
what's on page 73?
A lot of words. And at the bottom, number
73.
73.
you know.
Touche.
So yeah, so you're not meeting your needs, but what causes you to video game? What is it about video games that makes you want to play? That makes it so addicting?
It's the same with any addiction. You're filling a void that you don't have in your life to make yourself happy.
But is it necessarily about that? Because there are people that will do, say, marijuana or cocaine, and they'll just do it one time just for like have fun, and then after that they'll keep coming back to it again and again. What if a video game is having that effect on somebody? It's like you played a video game, you thought it was fun, and now you just keep going back to it more and more.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you start replacing it for other interactions in your life.
What about like a game like LOL or Dota?
First, that's life. How are you going to replace that? Because- And
But
LOL's
I think
terrible.
that, I don't know what LOL is, but Dota.
League of Legends. It's like
It's a
But-
ripoff
an
of
abomination.
Dota.
Dota is a little bit different because you are still interacting with other
A lot of
people.
games
Unlike
you are.
Sims, like it's yourself, you're creating a fantasy. But like Dota, you have what, at least teams of 3? So you're talking.
5.
Is it 5? I don't know. I just know you, Mario, and what's his name?
The
Play, John.
no-lifers.
We're a team of 3.
But
A trio.
you still talk and like interact with people that way. So I think it depends.
No, well, but you can interact with people and it can still be an addiction.
Exactly.
There's
And that's,
people that play multiplayer online games
That is
thousands and
absolutely true.
thousands of hours,
That is
Exactly.
absolutely true.
and they're with people that are also playing thousands and thousands of hours.
so some of the stuff that I found on
But then,
was
where does the line cross of you being addicted to it, and then like, how many hours do those Dota professional players put in?
That's a career. They put
Okay,
in
so
full
where's
weeks.
the
There's
line
a
of-
difference there is some of these people that do it and they do it a lot, they'll, like Phil was saying, they do it for a career, but then there's also people that will do it for the same amount of time and they ain't getting paid at all.
It's like
Yeah, but
it's
how?
like
But before you're recognized, you have to play a lot and have good streaks for like gaming people to pick you up to be on a team.
the difference
So
is-
it comes down to like what the intent is for you playing the game. Are you playing to make an income, or are you playing because you're just fulfilling like some sort of addictive need?
Why can't it be both?
it could be both.
It could be both.
It-
Just
it
So
like
then
there's,
where does that line be drawn?
just
The
like there's
line is drawn. The line is drawn when you're not meeting your basic everyday needs. When you're not going to work. When you're skipping out. When
So, again,
when you're not showering. When you're in your room all the time and you just only go to your gaming room. And then you only go to the bathroom. You only go to get food, or somebody else is bringing it for you, or
Or
then-
you could
or
also
then
When
play.
you live in
Or
like
you
those
have relationship
houses
problems.
where like you have the teams, your food's provided for, you're expected to eat so many times. So what's it like? That's an addiction. You're not really taking care of yourself. You're having someone take care of you.
Wait, what?
Like
These gaming houses?
yeah.
Yeah,
like
you didn't know that?
Yeah, they have
all the
gaming
professional
houses where
gaming,
Where-
you are in a team. And
they
you're in
they
that
live in the
house.
house.
And they have their food brought to them, and you're expected to play so many hours. And
An addiction is only an addiction when it negatively impacts your life. If you gamble 80 hours a week, but you're making $2 million a year,
you need to move.
yeah.
no, my boob says them.
You want to
Well-
get your fat butt out of the way there?
I had him
What?
dance with the baby. Then it's not a problem.
Well, they
it's
say,
a job.
okay, on this study, the cause of why people game is for instant gratification. You know, then they talk about playing, well, the primary functions of playing games is to rehearse real-life situations, develop behavior responses without risk. You know, excessive gaming can include stress release, relaxation, anxiety reduction, escapism. You're talking about social interaction, competence, and self-esteem development. You know, these are all causes of why people game. But when you look at the risk factors, I mean, there's some really high risk factors. You got low social competence, absence of empathy, impulsive. You're looking at the
Lack of
ability
empathy
to
before
regulate
the games.
emotion. You end up going into more of like pathological gaming. You know, then you end up getting more into like the disorders. We're talking about anxiety, obsessive compulsive behavior. You know, these are all things that
Well, those are diagnosable
Those are-
things that come up
come
as a
up.
result of spending too much time in that realm. It's like you're starting to combine like several things, whereas video gaming can be an addiction. If somebody is like, say, a full functioning adult, say at 21 years of age, they've already developed their ability to talk or socialize, go out to the bar, or play Dota,
Or
But
hold a job.
not unless.
and hold a job.
But see, you can have an 8 or 10-year-old constantly play, be addicted, and by the time they turn in their 20s, they're not fully equipped to cope with certain behaviors.
Now you're stepping into parenting, though. It's like where the parents are also equally responsible for the stuff they bring into the house. It's like, how much time are you going to let your child like play video games.
Exactly.
Is he going to grow up in Dota's life?
Not till he's old enough
Yeah, but
to
then,
contribute functionally to the team.
no, but you still have, no, but
You
you
need a
still,
good healer.
no, but you still have people that
Starts
are
on
in their
bots.
20s and young adults that have excessive gaming and that aren't able to cope with these mechanisms, aren't able to cope with these traits, until now they're having they're skipping out on life.
Well,
You know,
this is-
and
this
then
is an
and then
argument.
You're making a judgment on quality of life. Maybe that's what they
It's-
want, and not being social and going to bars and having friends.
Maybe the video games fill the need. If they still have a job and they're just playing games as their social interaction outside of work, and they contribute to society, not really an addiction. What's the
And
difference?
if they're not harming themselves,
They're
I
not
mean,
harming themselves,
there's
in good shape, in good health.
not really
it-
too much you can do at that point if that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, if they're happy.
People can have these deficits and still game, much like people can have these deficits and still go hold down any other job. It doesn't necessarily have to develop just because of video gaming.
so maybe it's not an addiction then. If majority of the people are able to have a competent life.
Well,
It's
you're-
like
now you're
drinking-
making
I
assu-
mean-
now
I
you're
mean-
jumping to assumptions.
I
here.
mean-
like
So it's-
It's not an all or nothing. There's a
Yeah.
spectrum.
It's like alcohol. How many people do you know drink? You could probably use how many people in their early 20s do you know drink, how many play video games. The numbers are probably very similar, and the number of addicts is probably very similar. But they're both, well, there's nothing wrong with having a drink or two.
No,
Same
there
thing, there's
isn't.
nothing wrong with playing some video games. It's when but both are addictions. You can't deny that alcohol is an addiction. Thousands
course.
of people suffer with that.
So let's do one of my studies that I got.
I don't want
And it was
Those
based
spills
on
drop in the knowledge.
college.
to. I like
It was based on
Can you put an emoji of God
college students, young males in their first year.
in my spot?
And
I
this
wanna
study,
Calm down there just a little bit. This is episode 1.
so this study that I found, it talks about college males.
I'll put you in
And
as a soothsayer.
it talks about how
FedEx or UPS?
these youths from the ages of 8 to 18 and above, the gaming affects their GPAs, their ACT scores. We're talking about SATs. We're talking about not finishing school, you know, and these are young adults.
Well, who wants to be in school?
Well, you guys sure did.
Did they? Did they?
Well,
We
the
all wanted to
question was
do.
who wants to be in
Exact-
school?
If
Did we
you have the
want-
option of doing homework that you don't really care about, it's also, those are mandatory classes that you might not feel strongly about. So like, you write an essay on history that you hate or play a game. There's,
What's the standard they calibrated against? Is it against average students? Is it against?
It's
Because you can be distracted by anything in college.
one
Partying.
is one
Drinking,
Drinking,
drugs.
yeah.
women,
One is
socializing.
for
why do you look at me, Phil?
all sorts of distractions in college.
College.
Sacrilege. Not till we were married, and not till 19 months after that.
Don't you lie on
and this is
camera.
what happened.
We kept I was saving myself.
You wanted to be extra
Yeah,
sure.
me too.
I wanted to be extra
Me
sure.
too. I was saving myself.
Well, that's what you told me.
So, so you know how
I
you
thought
were
you were
talking
religious.
about drug addiction and alcohol addiction?
Yes.
One of the studies that was in this article was gamers are actually low in the spectrum of having drug or alcohol violations. Be-
Really?
Yes, because of the fact that they're
Hard to get a
constantly.
DUI when you're on a computer.
That was actually the rest of her.
That was
Oh,
the rest.
was it?
That was the rest of my
I just,
article.
I just wrote that article. Wow.
So it talks about why is it that.
That's a terrible correlation.
But yeah, but
Somebody
it,
actually did research on this
yeah,
and got published.
People
it was
who
a
spend
doctor.
90 hours a week playing video games indoors.
Dr.
don't
Livingston.
Have DUIs.
Yeah, but it talked about why is it that they don't,
It's like
that
with
they have
people
low,
that are so fat that can't leave their house. It's like, yeah, people that drive that are too fat to leave their house, they don't get in a lot of fatal car accidents now, do they?
Health benefit, right there.
They can't leave
Yeah.
their house for one.
Yeah.
Perpetual cycle there.
so what else?
Mm.
But yeah, they talked about students or college students and them having a high video game addiction scores, or simply attending parties than other social events, or less frequently to be able to have any alcohol or drug addiction.
Well,
Drug
let me
drug
ask-
addiction.
They
effects.
Let me
obviously
ask
wouldn't
you.
hang out with you
Let me
guys.
ask you this, guy. What are?
We can do both.
Let me ask you this. What are we defining as our social norms here? Are we saying that people have to go out and do these things? Because in a college setting, I mean, I believe you'll find just as many people that'll want to stay and play video games as much as as you'll find people that want to go out and drink or socialize. It's like, are we chastising the people, the gamers that are at school that just stay at home and play video games versus the people that go out and drink?
But isn't one of the norms for college, for going to school, is to socialize, is to network with other people that are within your?
Who's saying we have to do any of that?
No, you don't.
It's changing.
It's like
But
that would be a
but
norm
this
for
is
you.
but this is
That
a,
may be a norm for
it might be
you.
a norm for me, but when you have thousands of college students coming out, I mean, one of the big things is meeting new people, experiencing new things, you know?
But is that necessary to be successful, or is missing out on that, is that
think-
detrimental?
That it's from a girl's perspective, we are more social, because when Philip was a ghost and I was trying to find him in the guys' dorm, knocking on people's doors
You
or
want to
like
explain that term real quick, a ghost?
no.
Just
No,
like-
I think you should explain this ghost term real quick. I want to hear this, just because I want to know what it is.
No.
Just
So
like now.
you want to?
Yeah, I want to
you
hear
really
ghosting. I really want to know what it
This
what
is a
Phil was ghosting.
backstory of how Philip and I met. It was the first day of college in the mess hall.
I approached her.
No,
On the
I
record.
From the
approached
shadows.
him
Tried to lie.
and sat down next to him, had
Like,
dinner,
hey, girl.
and then I was like,
What's
"This
your
is a
name,
cool
girl?"
guy. I
You
want
stop
to
lying.
get to know him better." So I went to the guy's dorm and knocked on all the doors and was like, "Do you know a Phil Watkins?" And while I was knocking on doors and
You should have asked her Shasta McNasty. That's what I went by in college.
that's why I didn't find you.
Yeah.
I went by
A lot of the
Gilbert.
guys were gaming and interacting with them, like with other guys. But then you go to the girls' dorm and like everyone's in the main hall socializing, getting to know each other. So it's just a different.
So the norms
They
around
had, like,
socializing were
computers.
a bit different between the
Everyone
girls and
hang
the guys.
out, and then we got bed bugs, and then no one.
Oh my Lord.
But Phil didn't answer because he was.
I don't know.
He was probably too busy gaming.
No.
He was a ghost. I don't know. I don't know where he was.
I was whooping it up.
What was,
Whooping it up. That's
Out
I
of-
was a
out of-
wild young man.
out of your college experience,
to
how
feel
much
women.
how much gaming did you do at Benedictine?
I don't know.
I don't think it was
Fair.
gaming. I think it was more videos. Gaming wasn't until we moved in with Charles.
Okay, well, videos
I
then.
always played video games.
Video games.
No,
Video
I didn't
games,
really see
internet
you play video
games.
games until we moved in with Charles.
Just wait till you sleep.
Probably.
What?
It's when he plays now. After I go to bed.
Play when everybody's asleep. Only 24 hours a day.
Phil, are you ashamed of what you have to do while your wife's asleep?
Gotta, turn off all the lights.
Also, he probably
Game in
doesn't want to
the
go to
dark.
bed at 7:30 at night.
Oh Lord.
Gaming in the dark.
It's because he doesn't change the light bulb.
Talk real quiet.
No, you don't.
Oh,
Anywho,
anywho.
Should we talk
so I
about?
wasn't a ghost. Just because you can't find someone doesn't mean they're a ghost. Who said
But
all
you were
that?
elaborating a little
She
bit
was
more on your.
stalking. That's the
first
term if
encounter
you
with him.
reverse the story. Reverse the genders on this story. There's a girl who a guy can't find, and he starts knocking on every female's door
That's
in
crazy.
college, and trying to follow her schedule and hitting up her friends.
All right, so I'm going to pause
We
there
didn't
for a
have any
second.
mutual friends
Liz,
until
we
like
need to
6
talk
months
for a
in.
second. This is This is an intervention.
Okay. It's kind of bad or a little late. It's not bad. It's a little late since we've already been married for
Stockholm
almost 6
syndrome.
years.
It's still on?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know any different now. I'm so accustomed to it. I don't remember what the daylight feels like on my skin.
You're so ridiculous.
I've been a prisoner so long.
Liz, what are you doing to this man?
There's the door. You can leave.
Yeah.
All right.
Typical abuser.
All right, this is a topic that we're saving for another day. We ain't about to do therapy up in here right now.
DV.
Foreshadowing. Episode 5, domestic violence.
So what, I guess, my other thing is, I have this graph. I know
Yeah.
we were looking at this
I
about,
appreciated this. I like
the-
this piece of information.
Show the
yeah.
cameraman.
So,
I'll put it up there.
yeah, we'll put it up.
You got the projector?
Every
Every-
information that we have, we will post up, and so you guys can see it and take a look at it if this is something that you want to explore a little bit more. But one of the things that we found was the video gaming addiction and the genre, that there's certain genres within, like, I guess we're talking about the RPGs, the internet gaming, you have
So to
shooter
that,
games, stuff like that. I don't know that much, so maybe you can
to
talk about it.
genres, there's more players to a certain kind of genre. So you're going to find like higher levels of players in that area, but you'll also find more incentives in those kinds of games that are going to make people want to play that kind of game more. In here, we're looking at, this is speaking pretty much specifically to consoles, this graph here that we're looking at. It's got your first-person shooters on there, sports simulations, adventure games, fighting, racing, and role-playing. You can probably think of a few just off the top of your head. But certain genres get targeted more to make players want to play more, much in the way like, if you guys have ever gambled, it's like there's certain tricks of the trade that make you want to keep gambling more. I want to play more. Let me get the money. Ooh, I'm down 200. Let me get another 100. So
Yeah.
kind of like that.
Question.
I would say they have more recently. It's gone more to that. You guys see a lot of games where there's always a constant achievement, or you're almost to an achievement where it's kind of that carrot. Like, play a little longer. You
Yeah, you
you
got
just
that
got a level, you get a new
self-gratification.
gun in Call of Duty. Oh, you get another level. And it's the exact same thing, like you said with gambling. Oh, just a little bit. Like with slot machines, they let you win
Yeah.
a little, and they keep luring you in. They don't want you
Exactly.
to blow all your money right away, because then you're not going to come back.
You know what was a good point was, me and Chris, we were talking, of course you got that instant gratification, constantly being rewarded, but then once you max a level, I guess in certain games, we were talking about if you max a level, well, you still can go back because you might need new players, you might need new equipment or whatever the case may be. So you're going back and then you're trying to re-gratify yourself.
You're hitting on that like incentivizing act that keeps them coming back again. The example you and I were talking about prior to the show was Call of Duty with their prestige system.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's exactly what you're talking about. Well, that's kind of a little different because then they let you reset all the way back in the beginning
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
with a little tally next to your name to
With a
show.
little tallying, but I have something specifically to that was actually patented not too long ago by EA. I don't know if you've heard about what they did, but it's basically the proof is in the pudding. They found like this psychological aspect that they basically worked up into their playing. But I'll speak real quickly about the Call of Duty thing, how that works, since it's one of the most like popular shooters out there. What happens is you have your character, your profile, and it says your profile is level 1. You play the game, you get level 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes all the way up to 50, right? And you unlock all the guns, grenades, cool unlocks for your characters. You can customize them any way you want. You want a beard, you can get a beard. You want a goatee, you get one. You want a scar on your guy's face, you got one. You want a Tommy gun, you get one. It's like you got everything. You can get all the way up to level 50, I don't know what the cap is anymore, but wherever it is, say 50. Then they can say, well, technically that's the end of the game, but you know, you could choose to prestige, which is where you start all the way back at 0, except now instead of going through the ranks of 1 through 50 and getting all those badges, you now have a badge that says this is your second time through, and you get a cool badge that nobody else will have. And you're kind of looked at like, ooh, he's got that? Wow, you did that? It's like, yeah. And you know what? There's 10 more rounds of this. I can prestige 10 friggin' times and do it all over again. And people will actually do it. Now, the thing about this is there's the patent that EA did. This is a little bit more complex, but this is kind of detailing their microtransactions and kind of like play-to-win games. This is like the stuff that really pulls people into playing video games now. And this is kind of how you can really say like it's impacting somebody, say your wallet for one. Because you said you did Candy Crush, right, Liz?
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't.
I didn't pay.
You didn't pay.
Oh, I paid.
I did not.
Oh, I made sure I paid on that one. If I wanted more, I needed to get it.
No.
Because you'd be so hyped on it. Like, and I just
Speak to that.
didn't,
Yeah, speak
and
to
I just didn't care. I'd be like so hyped on doing something, and I'd be like, well, I'm out of turns. But then they'll say, but if you pay, you can play it. You can go more. Or even the Minions games. I am addicted to that game. I absolutely am
played that
addicted
too.
to that game. And I do pay. I end up paying every time. I'll be on my phone maybe 2-3 hours, and then it'd be like, okay, well, I need this or I need that. So I would end up paying.
Well, let me ask you this. When you end up paying, do they have, when they take you to like that transaction page, do they have like a tier 1, tier 2,
Oh, yes.
level 3? Like but technically if you buy tier 3, you save the most money?
Yep.
Bless you.
And that
I
kind of
always end up-
encourages you to spend that much money
and you end up
every
spending,
time.
and you end up spending that much, and then
Oh, no, I would say not necessarily. Because then you have people, like, I've known people who would be like, oh, I'm just going to do it one more time, so I'm just going to get the lowest one. But then they run out, and then they'd be like, I'm just going to play one more time. So then they pay the lowest amount.
Yep.
But they do that like 3 or 4 times in a row.
And then
instead of buying the biggest package, which would have saved them money.
exactly. Then
Would
you
have
see
saved
your
them, but
account,
ultimately,
Google account.
you're spending more money and it
Exactly.
encourages you to keep buying more.
And that's
So you're like, oh, I got more lives, or I can keep trying.
and that's where it ties into to internet gaming and to gambling, you know.
Well, hold, before we jump
Yeah, before we
ship,
jump into that.
So what's happened in the gaming industry is now they have developed a way to encourage you for it to actually become detrimental to your spending time. Because what they've set up now with EA's patent, I don't know if they put a name on this, or is it Activision?
No, that's the assignment.
Activision Publishing? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was EA that had it done it. I'll do more research into it and find out who it was that patented this. But basically, the way the process works now is, say in your Call of Duty, you can get a custom gun, $4.99, right? Now, what will happen is that player will say that somebody buys that. They will no longer be randomly placed as they would have been into just games anymore. Now they'll be placed more often in maps that would be advantageous to that particular weapon, in which case they will perform better regularly. What that does is that tells the players, like, that was a good purchase.
That gun makes me better.
I'm gonna buy more guns. I'm gonna get more. But they've taken that a step further. What they do is now they also look at like your search history and like see whether or not you have purchased stuff before or whatnot, or stuff that you've looked at, and they'll keep putting you in games, say you don't have it, against players that have purchased it. They'll intentionally put you in a disadvantaged role, and you'll see that gun again and again up at the top of the leaderboards, and they'll keep putting that ad, because whenever you go to like their title screen, they have like, oh, the new thing in the store. It's like, oh, it's $4.99. And they'll keep putting that up there. Hey, that's the gun that just destroyed you 10 times over in the last 20 matches, and you've been playing for 10 hours now. I'm gonna buy that gun. And that's what they do. They patented this process, is that it no longer is like,
Malachi
Yeah.
doesn't agree.
he doesn't like it either.
He doesn't like it. He's very unhappy with that development.
Like, but I'm bringing this up because you get targeted as a gamer to basically turn this into something that makes you keep coming back, keep spending money. It's like with drug dealers, you know, they're always trying to make like the next best product. How do you get the consumer to keep coming back? You gotta have something better. You gotta have some sort of way to keep them coming back. For me, this is why I feel like this is something, or I think that this is something that should be like in the DSM because of that. Like right here, it's in the pudding. They patented the process to keep you coming back. What does that sound like? Does that sound like an addiction to you guys?
But then shouldn't the gaming industry be responsible for some of this? For some of these addictions then? Because if they're the ones patenting it.
If you're going like that,
Because,
then
I
why
mean-
isn't Jameson in charge of being an alcoholic? Why aren't like beer companies or hard liquor
Well,
companies?
They're just making
But
a
you
product.
There is a little different though, because it's not like Jameson's following you around. I guess, yeah, with targeted ads on your phone, that's true, a little bit. There's a little similarity. It's not to the same degree though, because you don't get that it makes you better aspect.
I'm not necessarily like jumping on the train that says like they should be held responsible. I'm just looking at this as something that it's a thing and it's not recognized at all in like the mental health industry. It's clearly a thing. Is he gonna live?
Yeah. He's getting taken out by big gaming,
Yeah, I know.
getting assassinated. It is. It's definitely when they start targeting. Same thing when they do like those. Instead of letting you buy something, they let you buy a chance to get something. It's the exact same thing.
Oh.
That's really big now. Like especially with free-to-play games,
Loot-
you
loot
can
crates.
buy loot crates. You can buy a chance to get something. So now you're not even guaranteed. But it's like, oh, you have a 70% chance. That's just gambling.
You
With
know
that.
what? You know what's actually happening with that? Is that there have been people that have been working towards that to actually get that classified as gambling.
Well, it's
And
it's
they're
exact same thing.
Totally circumventing the whole issue of like what's happening in gaming, that there is an addiction to it, and they're just saying, oh, it's not an addiction, it's gambling addiction. We just need to label it something different.
Well, and it's one of those you can think about. It's like gambling addiction. If you're an addict, you can get listed to blacklist. You can choose to be. They don't really have anything like that. You can't call up EA and say, "Hey, this game's ruining my life. Don't let me play Call of Duty anymore." They're not going to do anything. They don't care. They'll be like, "Oh, let us send you a coupon." Probably.
No,
To buy our new game that's coming out next month.
they're
Big
actually
thing.
one of the biggest killers of like your smaller companies. Basically, if you don't make the games the way they want them to, they kind of give you the axe. That's what they did with, I don't know if are you familiar with Visceral Games at all?
What was their big one that they made? The name sounds familiar.
I wanted to say, oh, shoot, I'll find out another game.
Oh.
So they were in charge of Dead Space. They made that among other things. I remember there were several that they made. Games developed. They made stuff such as your Tiger Woods games, 007. They made a lot of 007, several Lord of the Rings games. They made The Return of the King.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that was a good game.
Yeah, right. But by the time
Solid cred.
But by the time you got to Dead Space 3, I don't know if, no. Well, to kind of like speak to what happened in it, the first game, there's like no microtransactions in it, whatever, there's no price
Yeah,
or
there's
anything. Second one, kind of similar, you see a little more DLC. The third one, apparently he was plagued with like several different transactions that could be made, and like it sold terribly.
It's like Alien 1, 2, and 3.
Alien was just a
First
bad
one
game.
didn't seem good.
I don't know.
Third one's not as good. But yeah, it's well. At least that shows you that people don't want to deal with that. But it must work because they keep doing it. They keep showing up.
patented it.
Yeah, they wouldn't spend all this money making it if it didn't work.
Like, this is an industry that knows how to get people to come back for more.
Well, it even shows you that free-to-play games, the fact that they exist nowadays, their whole business model is we can have thousands of people playing with only a very small percentage spending a ton of money. You know?
There's I do have a video game to kind of exemplify that, called Warframe. You may have seen it a few times. Free to play.
Yep.
You can actually go from 0 to 100 and never actually spend a dime. The camera's right there. That one right there.
There's that one right in front.
You guys want a hug? Is that what
No,
you
I was
want to
gonna
do?
grab the baby. Look at how
Why?
happy he is.
He's happy because he's up high.
Really?
Oh, now he's upset. You made him mad.
Should we talk about why it's not in the DSM then? You want to talk about that?
I was gonna say, going back to like,
Old people.
I don't know if you talked about it, but like treatment for, I don't know if you had this class at Adler, but like you had to make like a like counseling center or something like that, and you had like money and you had to like buy a building and like why you would have a counseling center. And our group did it on gaming addiction, and the teacher was like, "You're a couple years too early, but this could actually be something."
And I would say you're right, that it is actually something that's a thing.
Yeah.
There's actually a place I was trying to get hired at, Skylight Counseling Center. Great place. They actually have video gaming addiction programs already up and running with a video gaming specialist. His name is Kevin Lanham. Great guy. It's a really cool program. But it's actually a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know of too many others. That's the
Yeah.
only one I know of.
Yeah, and I didn't know that there was any.
Yeah, there's actually like why gaming addiction isn't a disorder and how this article talks about why it isn't a disorder and then talks about like things that we can do for recommendations to make it into the DSM, which is to discuss about the behavior patterns that underlie the condition. You know, you got to look at psychometric testing to establish multiple forms of validity and reliability, using samples drawn in general population and clinical settings. Like you were saying, you know, we need to look for more of a long-term perspective evaluations, conducting standardized criteria to determine temporal stability, figuring out if there's an underlying condition. You know, you got to look at the past, you got to look at psychiatric conditions, you know, and then like after you look at all these stuff, I mean, what type of therapy are you looking to do with these people? You know, because some are, it looks like psychotherapy, psychoeducation, then you got into personal therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, support groups. Then you're looking at pharmaceutical therapy to deal with just like the like other disorders such as anxiety, mood disorders, stuff like that. Like, what kind of treatment or what kind of screening do you think that we need to do? And we were talking about that with the tobacco disorder and some of the screenings that they were doing.
I don't know. Do you have that one?
Yeah.
offhand? It had the questions on there.
So we found, I think it was a Likert scale.
They used the Likert scale on there to kind of just basically nail down 1 to 10 how the severity of everything that they were going to be asking. But the questions that Juanita showed me on the recent study she found, a lot of them seem to mirror stuff that's already in the DSM. So this one. Which one is this? This is the reliability and validity of the behavioral addiction measure for video gaming. They had a list of questions. One of the I'll just go through the first three. How often have you played video games? Longer, more frequently than you intended to? Have you made any attempts to cut down, control, or stop video game play? Were you successful in these attempts? Oh, there's part two to that second question. In the past 12 months, is there anyone else who would say that you have had difficulty controlling your video game play, regardless of whether you agreed with them or not?
And then some of it goes on with like more of like your daily life, financial, you know,
Who
are you
did
able
that
to
study?
deal with your financials?
This one? This was 2016. I'll just read the top names up
So
there.
some of these questions, and when we were talking about it, it kind of, in the DSM, it looks like the obsessive compulsive disorder, then you're looking at tobacco disorder,
Right.
and some of these questions are the same, and so we're saying, why isn't this in here?
So just to give a quick rundown, I want to, for those that end up watching, I'm going to use tobacco-related disorders out of DSM, and I'm quoting right out of DSM here. So this is for tobacco use disorder to kind of like diagnose somebody with this, and they basically have to meet X amount of criteria in order to be diagnosed. But this is just a rundown of some of the questions that they have in here. Tobacco is often taken in larger amounts over a longer period than was intended. There is a persistent, desired, unsuccessful effort to cut down or control tobacco use. That sounds kind of similar to the questions that I was just asking in there. A great deal of time is spent in activities necessary to obtain or use tobacco, craving or strong desire or urge to use tobacco. Just to do a brief thing where I just turn this on its head real quick, all I'm going to do is basically substitute tobacco with the word gaming, and you tell me if this sounds like an actual thing. Gaming is often often played in larger amounts or over a longer period of time than was intended. Sounds like something a gamer would do. There's a persistent desire, unsuccessful effort to cut down or control gaming use. Sounds like what he's doing right now. He can't cut the games. He's got to play with their hair. We have our first victim right here. A great deal of time is spent in activities are necessary to obtain or play games. Craving or strong desire to play games. It's like these all sound like things that I would use to diagnose somebody if they had an addiction to video games.
They should really just make it addiction as just the general diagnosis, and then you could do it to anything. You can be addicted to
Honestly,
anything.
you could.
It's kind of.
I believe you could.
And I think in a couple of years that gaming addiction will be in the DSM.
They should just make it general
Well, right
addiction.
now it's in there as like internet gaming disorder, I think is what it is.
Yeah, internet gaming disorder.
And it's, they,
Gambling.
they have it in there as, I forget what the term is, but basically they're saying they're doing research on it. But I mean, come on, this is a multi-million-dollar business. It's been around, crap, when did Atari come out?
A long time ago.
Long
You're
time
talking
ago.
about
There you go.
Pong.
Facts all day, folks.
Pong.
But,
Pong's the first.
you know,
Pong was that one that they used to dial and they got on that
You
huge
didn't play
computer.
Pong?
Shut up.
And you're a gamer?
I know what Pong is.
Wow.
That's sad.
didn't you say internet gaming addictions on here?
There was no
Is it
internet
on there?
for Pong,
It's
so
internet
What?
gaming
There's no internet
disorder.
for Pong.
Okay,
And then they basically say, like, we're still looking into it sort of thing.
so
They have some criteria for it. Oh,
do you remember we were talking about the internet gaming addiction and that it happened in South Korea, that there have been several deaths and murders due to gaming addiction, and that the government had to step,
Murder?
and that the government had to step in
What did
and
they
pass certain laws for youth under the age of 16 to not play gaming, to not
Really?
be on the internet past midnight to 6 a.m.
Where was this?
in South Korea,
Oh.
and that they ended up creating an open treatment center to help people with gaming addictions.
Oh, really?
And the center actually focuses on social interactions, outdoors activities, hobbies, arts and crafts. So that's just for internet gaming addiction.
Oh, that's funny when I was laughing at.
You know, so
Terrible person.
and they already consider this as a disorder and it's on the DSM. When is the time for us that people are actually gonna die due to video games.
To be fair, if someone came up to you and was like, "Oh man, I can't, I'm an addict," and you're like, "Oh, I just asked if you want to, play some Candy Crush," you would laugh. Like you already laughed. That's terrible.
Facial expression.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. That's it. But you think about
If
it.
you
It's
told
right.
me that you had an addiction for video gaming, I would probably first laugh and then I'd be like, "Are you serious?"
If they were like, but if someone was like, "Oh, I can't have a drink, I'm an alcoholic," you want it.
Wani doesn't believe in that.
I don't believe in that.
Wani will still make you have a drink.
I'll probably still have a drink. Next thing you know, it'd be like 20.
But it's just not there socially for people to really consider it. Like if you were playing video games too much and your work went to fire you, but you went for counseling beforehand for video game addiction, they're not, because you can't fire somebody with a disability,
No, you can't.
especially if they're seeking treatment. That's not going to fly. They're still going to fire you. You have to take them to court, I'm sure, and prove that. But yeah, it's just not to the point where people consider it a serious threat until it.
But it is kind of, because, okay, you look at these shooter games, these Grand Theft Auto games, or like Street Fighter games. These are very violent games.
There's nothing wrong with violence.
And the thing is, those behaviors can end up going. I mean, if you game these games, I mean, you're more likely to get these behaviors, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a
I don't.
psychologist.
I would say no.
But
Yeah.
but then you look at rap music, or you look at like Eminem. Eminem got sued several times because of his explicit content.
Well, that's because
you
that
know.
was the 90s. We've fallen a long way. The
Yeah,
bar's
and
gone
now
a long
we
way.
got those parental advisories and stuff like that to limit that. And I know they have some of that on video games as well, but you still have kids getting their hands on this, either by their parents not being aware that these games are very violent, or they're just playing it anywhere.
Well, so for me, this
But
is coming
these-
down to an argument of parenting again. Like there's the ESRB rating board system that is in place on these games. Like if a parent's doing their job, parents, I'm looking at you, not doing your job.
Who
Yeah.
who would be?
It's like, is a 8-year-old supposed to have Grand Theft Auto as a game for
Obviously
them to
not
play?
us.
Do you think so? Because
It teaches money management.
money management.
If you
Are you going political on me on this? Huh?
if you partake in an activity and then request a refund afterwards via baseball bat, that's money management.
So, this game has drug references in it, nudity in it, lots of intense language, whatnot. I love the game, but would I let an 8-year-old play it? 12-year-old play it?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Do they? They're some of the best players out there. So,
Well, you can say the same thing with rated R movies. You're technically supposed
Deadpool.
to be 16.
Deadpool. Lots of parents were apparently upset with the level of gratuitous violence in there, despite it saying that it was a rated R movie at the start.
There's
And the whole premise being him killing people.
Yeah.
But yes, it's the same thing.
It's like parenting. Come on.
Yeah.
Just do your job. Get someone else to do it.
Yeah, but then
Hand it off.
get a
you're saying
nanny.
like
Bad film. Bad film.
yes, parenting. But then you have parents
You're equally
using
responsible
iPads,
partner.
using cell phones to have their kid to occupy their kid, and
Yeah.
then your cell phone, you don't have parental advisories on your cell phones. You're not blocking anything on certain content. So
How
now
would I
you're
watch those videos?
now you expose your child with all of this content. They're going on YouTube, they're going on this, they're looking at this, they're playing on these video games, and you don't know until once you check your browser or whatever the case may be. And that's another way of parents parenting, not being able to parent.
Think of it this way. If your parents drink, you're more likely to drink. How often do kids see their parents constantly obsessed with their phones? They looking at. You even look at people out at dinner. You're always looking at your phone at some time. People are obsessed with technology.
Oh,
Or
that's one of my
their
biggest pet
kids are
peeves.
going to be predisposed to being obsessed with
That's
technology.
my biggest pet peeve. When I eat dinner with Tim, I do not take my phone. But he's constantly on his phone
You want to
during dinner.
real quick?
And I get so mad because I told him, do you not know how to put down
Tim, looking
technology?
out for you.
Like,
Smash that like
like
button.
what happened to
Subscribe today.
what happened to regular communication? Everything now is through web conferences, through social media, through telephones,
People
through
won't even read anymore. They gotta listen to their information. It's
Exactly.
ridiculous.
Audiobooks in the car.
Podcast.
podcasts.
We're feeding your addiction, everyone. You're welcome. That'd be $5.95.
But this, you will see that more and more people, not just because video games are more popular, that's a big part of it, but our constant connection with technology, you'll see probably more and more addictions to electronics and video games as the years go. Because you think about it, you're constantly connected. Especially if you have a video game on your phone, like you guys were saying, Candy Crush. It's so much easier now to play your games. Way different back in the day when you had to go bring a bunch of quarters and go to a very specific place in a mall.
That was the early days of
That was- yeah.
microtransactions.
The early microtransactions. But that mall closed and you had to go home. There was a limit. Now it's on your phone 24/7. You can get it, easy access, constant exposure.
And you can get it for free.
Get it for free with constant incentive to keep playing. Well, it's like handing out cigarettes. It's eventually going to get you,
Exactly.
Yeah, it might be okay for a couple people, but it's gonna.
It's
You
not,
know,
it'll mess up plenty of other people.
Exactly. Like one of the things, like you said about cigarettes. Now, Tim, he lived in North Carolina for years, and the high school that he went to school was owned by a tobacco company.
That's awesome.
And
That's so
it was
ridiculous. I can't
insane
even believe that.
because half of the kids.
Horrible high. Where the
I
cool
forgot
kids go.
I forgot what the company was, but Tim used to tell me that
Their track team
a
The
lot
star
of
is the camel.
but a lot of the sports
run all day.
a lot of the sports and the high school was owned by the tobacco company.
That's
And
awesome.
when Tim
So
was
terrible.
like 11 or 12, he was already chewing tobacco. He was smoking. So these are some things that like
Well, that's
you're
all-
already predisposed. And then later on, it took Tim over 15 plus years to finally quit smoking.
Well, you think about when do people smoke? When their friends smoke. When places they go smoke.
Very
Constantly
social setting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
generally.
social setting.
Constantly exposed to it in social settings, encouraging you to try it.
That is
And that's-
adorable. She is trying
and that's-
so hard to stay on
And
camera right now.
and that's the same thing with video games. If you video game, I don't video game, but I'll go to your house and be like, hey, let's hang out.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, let's hang out.
Play
I don't,
video games.
and you play video games, and I'm
Blood
there,
pressure.
and I'm trying to learn, or I'm trying
Push
to,
that Pac-Man on you.
or I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not good with those RPG games or whatever,
Role-playing games.
or role playing. Is that what they're called?
No.
But you guys constantly make fun of me. You could be like, Juanita, like you gotta go left, not constantly stay on the wall or whatever.
You talking about Mario Kart?
Did you just say you're not good at role playing?
That's a different. That's not a different topic. That's a different topic than we're talking about. Sex addiction.
Episode
Lonnie
7.
knows
Episode 7.
all about that.
I know all about that now. But no.
That's inappropriate. Have a
But
baby.
when you have friends that game,
Yeah.
you're more likely to game. And we were talking about that, about friendships. Why are we truly friends? And I told him, and I told Chris, and I said,
Like his shiny
I
head.
said, people are friends because they have something that person wants.
That is pretty
Like-
good.
Like, there's something that triggers you with Phil. And you said
He is an addicting personality.
he has an addicting personality. But you also said that you were kind of like a loner back in the day, and Phil was the
And
one,
microtransaction.
and Phil
Just a
was the
little bit
one
at a time.
who was kind of
Encourage him. Hey, Chris.
encouraging
how about
you
a
to
half
come
hour
out.
More? Come on.
Like, no, you don't gotta go home. Just
But
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's another way of why
20 more
people
minutes.
game and why people socialize with each other is because there's something about this person that they have that that triggers you to be their friends. You know, when you said that you guys have been friends for so long,
You had hair, I didn't.
he had hair, you didn't, and
very
that's what
sad.
attracted. Me and Phil, we've been friends
At
since
the-
high school.
At the age of 7th grade.
But one of the things that I loved Phil that made me want to stay his friend was he was very, yes, the hair.
I love how this
The mop
ended
hair.
up being how we all love Phil.
But no, but that's
The true addiction has come to light. Hide
you are
your
the
children,
reason.
hide your kids. Philip is in the area. He's awesome.
All right,
Once you pop, you can't stop.
I'm going to stop you just for a little bit. Juanita, I want to let you finish out your thought there,
Oh, I
and
don't
then
know,
we'll
but,
have to wrap it up, though.
yeah, but the main point is people that video game and that socialize when video gaming is because their friends video game, and then you have somebody that you can go to their house and video game, or instead of going to their house, now you're isolating yourself and you're on the computer talking to your friends through your game console and video gaming with them.
Thank you
That
very
was my
much.
thought.
Thank you very much, Juanita. So, before we head out real quick, what do you guys think? Video game addiction, do you think it's something that should be diagnosable? I'm voting yes.
I will say in a few years it will be in the DSM.
That sounds like a yes.
I vote, make it general addiction, put them all under the same.
Shut up,
hat.
no different ideas are allowed on this show.
General
All right, you
addiction.
want general
Addiction's
addiction.
pretty similar origins, outcomes, different levels of severity, different rates, but it's all about the same
All
thing.
right, thank you for the alternative facts. Juanita, no, I'm just kidding.
Fake news. Don't listen to that. Brought to you, my commentary brought to you by EA. It's in the game.
Shut up, we'll get flagged.
It can get pulled out.
Juanita, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think after a few more years, a few more studies, generalized studies, and then pinpointing video game addiction with other disorders, I think it will be.
All
I
right.
think we constantly have to push the status quo.
Make it a spectrum.
All right, everybody, that was beautiful. Thank you for wrapping that up. From all of us here at Full Circle, have a good night, everybody.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button, subscribe.